I will be forever the myth.
You're the king of kings, Arnold.
There's always a pecking order. The little packers never mess with the big packers. So I'm a rooster, and he's a chicken, so to speak.
You know, one thing that's interesting about Lou Ferrigno, I've watched, I haven't seen him in a long time, but he's always had I'm thinking to myself, how come Lou doesn't go gray like the rest of He's only
I noticed he's going gray. Yeah.
How come his hair is still dark and stuff? All of us are gray around his age.
Yeah.
Suddenly, not long ago, about 2 months ago, I go on the internet, and there's Lou with completely gray hair and a gray beard. I said, did his hair go gray overnight? Or was he dyeing it the whole time that I didn't realize?
Yeah.
I don't know. But he doesn't look bad with the gray. He doesn't look
he looks
bad.
good. He's got the beard now. I think he looks really good.
I think he looks good too.
Yeah. Ed Corney was like that. I remember for years he had black hair, and all of a sudden he showed up one year and he had totally gray hair. In 1 year, it went from black to gray.
Yeah, another great guy, Ed Corney. Another great guy. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting now, this universe that took place in Italy was 1 week before the big show, which was they had the Olympia, the America, and the Mr. World all on the same night. And this was in Madison Square Garden at the Felt Forum. So it was actually the 10th Mr. Olympia ever, because it started in 65. So this was the 10th Mr. Olympia. And they also had, like I said, the America and the World too. So let's talk about those shows first. So Bob Birdsong, after just losing the universe to Arnold and Lou, goes in the America, and he wins the overall at the America. Eddie Giuliani won the short class. He beat out Leon Brown and Dave Mastarakis.
Yeah.
And then Bob won the medium class. He beat Kent Keene, and he beat Roger Callard, who had to be really young at that point, right? 74.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he was.
And then Bill Howard won the tall class. He beat Don Peters and Don Modzelewski.
Wow.
And then Bob won the overall.
Yeah.
And Modzelewski won the most muscular.
Modzelewski was the guy with the really big arms, I remember. Right?
Yeah, real big arms, yeah.
I think he might have been one of Steve Mihalik's guys.
He was. You're right.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that year, that's the year that I was in the movie called Death Race 2000.
Oh, that was the year?
That starred David Carradine, and it had the guy playing the heavy in the movie was a then unknown actor, Sylvester Stallone.
Right. I remember you told me that story.
Don was in preparation for that contest that you just mentioned.
Okay.
So he was in contest shape. He was, Don was pretty good bodybuilder, Don Peters. I was just average guy, I didn't look anything like him,
Are you guys in that movie? If I watch it, will I be able to see you?
Very briefly, there's a scene where they're massaging the people that are in the race.
Yeah.
Got to look really close.
Okay.
We're on real fast.
Okay.
There's a scene. I'm at the end table, and I'm massaging the female lead. Her name was Simone Griffith.
Okay.
And, Don was 2 tables over. He was massaging a woman who was in the movie One Floor Was the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh.
Yeah, she died a couple of years ago. She was in that movie. She had a pretty big part in that movie.
Huh.
But, and Stallone was also...
Did she play the hooker at the end, where they brought her on the boat?
It's possible. I don't remember exactly, but she was in that movie.
Or maybe one of the nurses.
Yeah, I can't remember what she played, but Stallone was like 4 tables down, in the scene.
What are you doing? Get away from me. Don't go nuts.
Just tell him I was whispering sweet nothing in your ear.
Well, Myra, what did Frankenstein have to say to you?
He didn't say anything. He didn't
What did he say?
What did he say? Nothing.
Look, I'm not playing games here, Myra. I want to know what he said.
He said there was nothing sweet in my ear.
And when they took a break, I massaged the female lead. Her name was Simone Griffith, and he tried to pick her up right in front of me.
Yeah, you told me that. Yeah.
Later on, I didn't know he was married at the time.
Oh, to Sasha.
he wasn't famous. He was just an actor trying to break in.
Yeah.
And you could see she had no interest in him. No interest at all. And I felt sorry for the guy. She was nice. She didn't reject him. She didn't say get lost or anything.
Yeah.
You could see she didn't want to talk to him. So it's finally dawned on Stallone, and he kind of drifted away. And I went up and sat next to him, tried to talk to him because I felt sorry for him. I said, I made believe I was an actor. I said, so what work have you done before? He goes, he's talking out of the side of his mouth.
Yeah.
He's acting really unfriendly, like he doesn't like me or something. So I said, well, nice meeting you, buddy. Take care. And I walked away, and I'm thinking to myself, what a prick this guy is. He said, he's not going to get anywhere in this business.
Right.
Like I told you the story, a year later on a newsstand, they had the entertainment papers, Variety, it's called.
Yeah.
It had movies in production. The first one said Rocky, stars, Sylvester Stallone. And I'm looking and I had to rub my eyes. I said, Sylvester Stallone? That was in the movie with a year ago? Not a movie? You got to be kidding me. That's a funny story. But when he was in that movie, he was preparing for that contest that he got second, the one you just
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
The Mr. World that year was won by our friend Bill Grant. That had to be probably Bill's highlight. That had to be the biggest show he ever won, 74 Mr. World.
He won the WBG Louis America in 72, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, so those two are the biggest, yeah.
Yeah.
Bill Grant, of course, I've been friends with him since 1970. Yeah. Did I ever tell you the story how I met Bill Grant?
Was it at Gold's after he competed in the America?
Yeah, in 70.
Yeah.
I walked up to him.
He said he should have did better, and he's like, yeah, whatever.
He was training with a friend of his from Jersey named Henry Jinks.
Okay.
He's on the Chinny bar, and I went up to him and I said to him, Bill, I just wanted to tell you, I saw the show the other night. I said, he got something like 12th, I think it was.
Yeah.
Dickerson that year. I said, I think you deserved a much higher placing. He goes, thanks. He's like, really? And I walked away with the same thought in my head. What a prick this guy is. I go out of my way to tell him that he give me like mad at me, like I did something,
Right.
And I always reminded him of this story and cracks him up. He laughs about it because we actually were roommates for a while. We became friends later on, but it was funny though. Yeah.
Bill looked really good that year.
He did, yeah. He's another guy that had very deep abs and a tiny waist.
Yeah.
Rare combination. Very small waist and deep abs.
Those great arms.
Yeah.
So Ed Corney won the short class. So Bill beat Ed Corney.
Yeah. Wow, that's great.
I think Ed was a little off though. I think that was the year I think he had some kind of knee surgery or something. So because Ed had won the America and the Universe in 72. And then the only title, he didn't go in the Olympia until 75 the next year. Yeah. So he tried to win, I guess, the Mr. World first before he won the Olympia. And he won the short class, but Bill beat him for the overall.
Oh, by the way, I just remembered, did I tell you the story about when I saw Bill Grant win the Dan Lurie show? My mother? Did I tell you that story?
No, I don't think so.
It's a funny story. I went to see the Dan Lurie show that year that Bill Grant won, and, I kind of of course, had met him in California, and I didn't really like the guy that much because of his attitude towards me in the gym.
Yeah.
But, he won the my mother used to love to go to any kind of theatrical production, love going to plays, anything that was on stage. And I said, Mom, this is not a play. These are bodybuilders with baby oil. That's going to get up and pose. She said, I want to go. I'd like to go. So it was held at, I think, Hunter College, if I remember correctly. So I went over there. Bill Grant wins the contest. And I'll never forget, I always remind of this. Bill Grant was so overcome with emotion that he started, literally dropped to his knees and started crying.
Really? Wow.
And my mother turns to me, she's looking at this and she says, does this always happen? Do the guys always drop down and start crying? I said, Mom, I've never seen this people. tell that. Bill Grant cracks up when I tell him the story.
He beat Lou in that contest.
Yeah, I think he might have been. Yeah.
And Warren Frederick was third.
Yeah. My training partner won it back from my training partner from New York. Had won it the year before. Pete Caputo.
Yeah.
The year before, yeah. 71, I guess that was.
Yeah. Franklin Green won the medium class.
Franklin Green, another guy from the West Indies.
Yeah, but he trained in New York, right? Wasn't he from
Yeah.
Mid-City too?
I used to see him at Mid-City all the time. Yeah,
Yeah.
quiet guy. Nice guy, quiet guy. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Olympia. That was the big one of the year. So this was the one where everybody says Arnold was his best.
Yeah.
74, that's the one he reached his peak.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about that year, Jerry, this was the first year they instituted the under 200, over 200-pound class. They never had that before. They used to just have one class. Well, they only used to have like 3 guys in the Olympia mostly, you know. But I think Franco was the one that wanted that, right? Franco wanted, because I don't think he knew he wasn't ever going to beat Arnold.
Yeah, I think they were pressured into doing that because I don't think Franco really believed, although he used to talk like he could, but I don't think he ever believed he could actually beat Arnold.
Yeah.
Not that Franco was bad. It's just that Arnold, let's face it, he had that height on him, and he's a bigger man.
Symmetry, yeah.
So Franco felt that the only way he'd be able to win any kind of Olympia title was if they had a separate class. So they started a separate class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Franco had done the Olympia. I know he did it in 72, 73, and now this was his third one. But I think he also did it in 69 when Arnold beat Sergio. I think he was in that one too. So Franco and Frank Zane faced off in the lightweight, the under 200-pound class. And that was a good matchup because Zane was really in great shape that year. He was obviously much smaller, but was in really great condition, very ripped. So again, you had, like with Zane and Franco, like it always was, it was apples and oranges. I mean, two just completely different body types. So it was just a matter of what the judges preferred. But it really could have gone either way, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
But Franco was much thicker. I think Zane got a little bigger over the next couple of years, but he was pretty small then. But he had, just really good condition, I think.
Very good conditioning, yeah. Franco was blocky, but just extremely muscular, very thick. Those giant slab pecs that he had,
he was really good that year. I think every year he got better and better up to 76. When he won it finally.
He had that that very wide back. I never liked Franco's legs though. I always thought he had horrible
legs. Yeah,
horrible leg development. Yeah.
When I interviewed Frank Zane, he said Franco always had the advantage in New York because he would come out and in the contest, he would come out and do a deadlift exhibition.
Yeah.
Which to me, today, when I think about that, just absolutely amazes me. Can you imagine any of the guys in Mr. Olympia today saying, yeah, I'm going to come out and do a deadlift exhibition in the middle of the contest? They're dieted down. They're not doing anything except competing, No, that would never happen today. No way. No. And he'd get up there and deadlift 700 pounds. And he said the crowd would go nuts. And then Zane said that influenced the judges. And then, of course, they're going to give him first place,
I believe that makes sense to me.
I do too. Yeah.
He had him going already. It was that's a big hill for Frank Zane to climb.
Yeah.
The only way Zane could have topped that if they brought out a bench and Zane did a 500 pound.
Yeah, right.
Then maybe he would have had a chance. He probably would have if they did that.
And then this was the first showdown, of course, between Arnold and Ferrigno. So the magazine, Joe Weider's magazine, had been hyping this. Like we said, he had that article with holding Arnold's head up. Because Lou, after Sergio left, because Sergio last competed in the Olympia in 72, so Arnold really, except for Franco, he really didn't have a threat. Yeah. So I think they were hyping up Lou because Lou was taller, he was bigger, he was like another kind of Arnold version, where he was a big, tall bodybuilder, and they were hyping this up as this was going to be the big showdown between Arnold and Lou. But I think, unfortunately, Lou, the universe was only a week before, but Lou kind of looked over-dieted, and Arnold really killed him on size. For being a shorter guy, Arnold just looked way more massive than Lou did.
He did. Arnold looked, Lou looked almost slim. If you look
he did. He was ripped, but he was slim.
He was ripped, But you remember the thing afterwards where Arnold's standing there with Joe and Ben, and Lou is on the side.
Yeah.
Arnold's big and thick, and Lou looks almost like underweight.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And he actually was big, but I think that you're right. I mean, the fact that he just competed, he had to continue to diet, and he might have slimmed down a little bit too much for that. Whereas Arnold, he was in the peak, best shape ever.
Yeah.
He totally peaked. It would have been very difficult for anyone to beat Arnold that night.
I wonder if Lou was nervous against going up against Arnold because he held him in such high regard.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
Sure he was. Whether Lou, I could tell you, he doesn't like to admit it, but he was intimidated by Arnold. He was great.
Yeah.
I mean, he kind of admired Arnold and was intimidated by him at the same time.
Yeah.
He never, I don't think he ever fully believed that he could beat him.
Yeah, I think that too. I think you're right.
I mean, I've seen interviews where, they say to him, well, Lou, what if you hadn't taken the Hulk show and continued to compete? You think you could have won the Olympia? He often says, he usually says, I think so. But, they never ask him the direct question of what about Arnold? Could you have beaten Arnold? Nobody ever asked him that.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to hear what his answer would have been. I don't know.
It seems like Lou has always kind of held that grudge throughout the years, about Arnold,
Well, Lou used to, every time, it's kind of funny because I know, as I say, I know Lou since he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And every so often when I if I run into him, he would say, "Hey, did you hear about Arnold?"
Yeah.
He'd always ask me like bad gossip about Arnold.
Yeah.
Always do. They was always get excited when he had something bad about Arnold. That's why I feel he was intimidated by Arnold.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when Arnold, when the rumors came about the calf implants with Arnold, Lou was really curious about that. He asked me several times.
Oh, wow.
He said, "Do you think Arnold had calf implants?" I said, "Well, let me put it this way, Lou. His calves did change quite a bit in a very short time, but honestly, I couldn't say for sure. I don't really know." I told him.
Well, that's funny because Lou ended up getting them.
That's what I was just about to say.
Yeah.
The irony is that after Lou was so curious about Arnold's calf implants, he himself got calf implants when he tried to return to competition in the what is it called? The senior Mr. Olympia? What do they call it?
Well, before that, he did the Mr. Olympia in 92 and 93.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah.
That's the one.
That's the one who showed up with the calf implant, too.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah. And I remember he used to say that. He goes, "I looked way better in my comeback than Arnold did."
Yeah. What do you think about that? You agree with that?
Well, he was definitely bigger. I mean, Arnold, in 1980 was a bad decision, I think. Or Arnold really wasn't at his best, so.
No, but I mean, considering the condition between the both, I mean, I know they didn't have identical physiques, but
yeah,
who do you think was in better shape when they did the return? Was it Lou Ferrigno or Arnold? What do you think?
I kind of got to say Arnold, I think, because Arnold was still really good poser. He was still cut. He was lacking in some body parts. Where Lou was way bigger. I think he was way bigger. I think because he was doing GH too.
Yeah, he was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he had those calf implants, and he only took 13th, I think. So.
Yeah.
But Lou was competing in a much tougher era, the 90s compared to 1980.
But there was one photo I remember from that Helsinki Olympia.
Yeah.
He was standing next to Dorian Yates, who won the show.
Yeah, yeah.
He literally dwarfed. I mean, not just height.
Yeah.
He made Dorian look small.
I know.
Remember that photo? I said, "Oh wow!" He made Dorian look like a teeny little bodybuilder.
And I heard that when Lou was preparing for that show, he was way bigger and he lost too much weight at the end.
That's very possible.
Yeah.
Very possible.
I really wish he would have went in 77.
Yeah.
That was the year he got the Hulk thing. Because remember, he was in California for a whole year training for the Olympia. And he looked great, man. The pictures in Muscle Builder leading up to that show, he was bigger than he was in 75, but he was ripped. He had like good abs, finished physique. That was the best physique he ever had. And then unfortunately that Hulk thing just came right before the Olympia and he couldn't do it.
That was what, 77, you say?
77, yeah.
He could have beaten Frank Zane. You know?
I think he could have, yeah.
That could have been the year he won the Olympia.
Everybody thought it was going to be between him and Robbie, and then Robbie ended up coming in watery, you know.
No, but I agree with you. If he came in top shape that year, he would have won.
And what's so weird is he never got another opportunity because that Hulk thing ended up going 5 years or 6 years, so he never got the chance.
I'm sure he doesn't, really regret it because the Hulk look what it did for him.
Yeah.
A celebrity.
I think a small part of it does regret it, because he's such a bodybuilder's bodybuilder. He loves bodybuilding.
Well,
I bet he wishes he could have done it.
Well, that's why he came back.
That's why he came back, right?
For the first for the regular Olympia, then for the Masters Olympia.
That was like 17 years later, too.
He came back because he always felt. He told me this when I interviewed him. He told me he always felt that that there was something missing.
He had to prove it to himself. Yeah,
he had to prove that he could win an Olympia.
Yeah,
and that was motivation.
Yeah,
sad that he didn't win either one of them.
Yeah, Lou loves bodybuilding. He's a bodybuilding fan.
Oh, he really did. He really did. He loved it.
Even to this day, I think he just loves bodybuilding.
He does. Yeah, he really does.
I bet you could sit down with Lou and talk to him for 5 hours about bodybuilding.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
He definitely loves bodybuilding. He does. And he's a good guy. People get the wrong impression of Lou. A lot of times, they said that he want to charge him for an autograph or something.
Yeah, he got a bad rep for that.
Honestly, it's hard for me to explain that, but I think a lot of it was his wife telling him to do that.
It was, yeah.
Because Lou, deep down, he's not the kind of guy that would tell a 10-year-old kid, I'm not going to give you an autograph until
she was putting pressure on him.
He was putting pressure on him to do that because Lou, I know him well enough to tell you, he's a good guy deep down. He's a good man. He's not a bad guy at all.
He's getting divorced, I guess, from his wife.
Yeah, that really surprised me too.
I think she's got Alzheimer's.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah. His daughter made a charge that he was stealing her money or something.
Yeah.
I mean, that was very sad,
Yeah, because they were married a long time, man.
Yeah. I was going to send a note to him because sometimes he communicates with me through the messenger.
Yeah, me too.
When I heard that, I was going to send a message to him telling, hey, Lou, I'm really sorry about you and what was her name? Sean? What was his wife's name? I can't remember. Carla. I said, I'm sorry about the marriage, but I said to myself, maybe I better keep out of this. Maybe it's a little bit too personal,
Yeah, he was on a podcast with Dennis James and Milos Skarsev and Chris Cormier on there too. And I guess Milos never heard about it because it's on. I heard about it. I heard the rumors. And Milos goes, hey, how you doing with your marriage to Carla? And Dennis James and Chris Cormier go, oh, my God. I can't believe you're asking him this. And he's like, oh, no, we're getting divorced. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry. And he goes, yeah, I can't really talk about it because, we're going through the process now.
Surprised, it's you wonder, I mean, what happened? Is it because of her brain disease? I mean, they're married so many years. They have grown children. Why would they suddenly, get a divorce?
I don't know. And I think his son is in acting. I think his son has been in quite a few TV shows.
You're a really nice guy.
Yeah, good-looking kid, too.
Very good-looking. He used to come to Gold's, and he knew I was a friend of his father. He used to call me Mr. Brainum. I said, listen, Lou, just call me Jerry. You don't have to. I know you're doing it out of respect. I appreciate that. Just call me. I'm friends with your father. I can be friends with you. Just Jerry. And really nice kid. Nice guy. Yeah.
So one thing I want to mention about the 74 Olympia was I wrote an article about this. Sports Illustrated sent one of their top writers out to the contest to cover it. So this was kind of the beginning of bodybuilding reaching mainstream press. Yeah. And George Butler and Charles Gaines were both at the contest. Now, they had covered the 73 Olympia for their book. And I guess the book was coming out only like weeks after this contest. I think it came out in November of 74. This contest was in October of 74. So this was like right on the crest of, bodybuilding reaching mainstream. It was still like kind of in the, in the closet, I guess you could call it, where it was still a small sport. But people were in the mainstream press were starting to get wind of bodybuilding. And then, of course, when the book Pumping Iron came out, that really brought it open. And then a couple years after that, the movie came out, and then that brought it open more. And then eventually we get to the 80s, and now the whole fitness boom is going. But it really was starting here. So it's pretty interesting that it was starting around 1974. And Arnold was getting famous like in other circles besides bodybuilding. You know, there was people like in the literary world that knew him, and you know, and that was because of Charles Gaines. I think he was introducing Arnold to a lot of people. And Arnold had his sights now set on going into the movies. This was supposed to be his last contest. He wasn't going to compete after this. And I think they already had plans to shoot Stay Hungry the next spring in Alabama. And of course, that was Charles Gaines' first book, which was a fiction book, and that was directed by Bob Rafelson. So Arnold was already done. And I think that's why he was in such great shape. I think he wanted to end it on a real highlight, you know, where he was going to be at his best. Yeah. And I really wish somebody would have filmed this contest. I mean, to have Arnold in such great shape. I kind of wish they would have made Pumping Iron this year instead of the year before, you know, or year after.
That's true.
Yeah.
But everything you just said makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew he was heading for the movies, you know. I mean, who would have expected him to come back in 1980? You know, he already made a couple of movies by then.
Yeah, he really wasn't at his best either in 75 or 80 because, I mean, this one, you could tell he had been training year after year after year, and this was his peak. And if you figure like Arnold's, I guess, first big contest was the Junior Mr. Europe in 1965. This was 10 straight years of competing. And now he was at his peak after 10 years of competing. And then he was only 27 years old here.
Right. Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that Arnold was in peak shape of his life at that 74 Olympia.
Yeah.
Everything. His legs were huge and cut, everything.
Yeah.
Really put it together that year. Yeah.
And I read the contest report, Jerry. They said his weight was 237.
Yeah? Wow.
Which doesn't sound like a lot today, you know.
You know, especially for a guy who's just about 6'1", you know, it's not.
Yeah.
These guys today, what are they walking around 275, 280 and up?
Oh yeah, easy. Yeah. I just saw a picture of a pro today. He's a top pro. He's like kind of coming up. Can't be more than 5'8", 5'9". They said he was 314 off season, and he had abs.
Oh my God! Geez, see what I'm saying? Oh. But I always wonder, though. What would Arnold, and we might as well throw in Sergio too. What would these guys look like if they did the same drug regimes the guys are doing today? You wonder, would Arnold have been better, or would he have been worse? You know what I mean? You wonder about that.
He would have been worse.
Or what about Sergio? Would he have lost the things that made him so genetic?
Yeah.
If Sergio blew up to, let's say, 280 pounds.
Yeah, he would have lost his stomach would have been sticking out.
He would have had a thicker waist. And
I mean, he had those small hips. I don't think anything would have made that bigger, but
he
got the bigger stomach or something, you know.
So it might not have, maybe these guys didn't have the structure to get that big.
Yeah, right.
You know?
I read an article by Arnold once, and he said that he thought his ideal weight was about 235. He said if he got bigger than that, he said he could compete bigger than that, but if he did, that he would lose his symmetry.
Yeah. Well, when he first showed up, he was pushing 250, I think.
Yeah, when he lost to Zane,
you could see the difference.
Yeah.
He was big, there's no question about it, but there was very little quality there.
Right.
I mean, smooth and
that's what he did over the next few years was refine that physique until.
That's what he did. He refined it.
Yeah.
He'd already just about peaked size-wise, so all he could do, he took a tip. He looked at Zane.
Yeah.
Saw the writing on the wall. He says, "I'm not going to beat these guys unless I really refine it," and that's what he did. He was smart enough to take that route.
Yeah.
He came to the head in 74.
Yeah.
He cut big. He had everything. He got it all together that year.
That was the greatest year ever. He looked incredible there.
Yeah.
One other contest I want to mention was the Mr. International. So if you remember in 73, Eddie Sylvester, who we mentioned was the first IFBB Mr. Universe, he was holding a contest every year in Tijuana, Mexico called the Mr. International for the IFBB. And all the top guys won that. I think Boyer Coe won it one year. Ken Waller won it one year. I know Frank Zane won it. Franco won it. Arnold won it. And then in 73, and I think this was coming off of the heels of Sergio losing to Arnold at the 72 Olympia. So Sergio goes to the Mr. International, and Arnold and Joe Weider are there. They called this the Tijuana Affair, but Rick Wayne called it the Tijuana Affair. So Arnold and Joe Weider are in the audience, and I think Franco was there too. And Sergio challenged Arnold to come up on stage and compete with him. And this is like 3 weeks before the Mr. Olympia in New York. Yeah. And Arnold wouldn't go, because Joe Weider goes, don't do it. And it was all a Spanish crowd, obviously, because it was in Mexico. But Eddie Sylvester had his own judges, and Sergio was saying, Joe Weider stacking the judging panel against me. So he goes, let's have the contest here with Eddie Sylvester's judges, and I'll beat you. And Arnold wouldn't do it. And then that, of course, was the end of Sergio's career in the IFBB, because Joe Weider said, you're out. You're done. After pulling that stunt, you're done. And he also, from what I heard, I read this in, I think, in Randy Roach's book, Joe Weider, when he showed up at the contest, I guess Arnold was going to compete in it. And he said, I've got, I think, 3 judges that I want you to put on the panel. And Eddie Sylvester said, I'm not doing that. He goes, I got my own judges. And because he refused Joe Weider, that was the end of Eddie Sylvester's career with the IFBB.
I told you the story about how when Sergio and Arnold around this same time went on Tom Snyder's show.
Yeah, I think it was that same year, right? 73. Yeah.
They're both on the show. They both look huge. They're wearing clothes. I think, I don't remember whether he stripped down to the trunks or not, but, Tom Snyder, he didn't realize there was a difference between bodybuilders and Olympic weightlifters.
Yeah.
So they rolled out an Olympic bar with 225 pounds on it. And they said, okay, let's see who can lift this weight the most, And so Sergio says, okay, Sergio had no problem with it, because remember, he was an Olympic lifter.
Yeah.
So, Snyder turns to Arnold. He says, how many times do you think you could lift this, Arnold? And Arnold looks at him. He says, I'm a bodybuilder, not a weightlifter. He refused to do it at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Sergio didn't know how to handle that. It was funny. I'll never forget that.
So what happened in 74 then was they took the show away from Eddie Sylvester. So then Arnold and Franco promoted their first contest, which was the Mr. International, and they held it in LA.
Yeah.
And I guess they did a great job. Like, I think Arnold was on, what show was he on? The Mike Douglas show or something, or one of those talk shows. He was going on talk shows. I think he hired a publicity agent. And they really went all out to promote this thing. And he had all the guest posers, like him, and he posed, Franco posed, I think Frank Zane posed, Serge Nubret posed, Ken Wall. He had like 6 of the top guest posers. And then Lou Ferrigno ended up winning the contest. And I think this was like in August. This was a couple months before the Olympia. And Lou looked huge, but he was smooth. And he still won. He beat Mike Katz. And Mike Katz was complaining. When I interviewed Mike Katz said he definitely should have beat Lou in that contest.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but if I remember correctly, they also held a Mr. Western America with that.
They did. Yeah, you're right. You're right.
I know that because I was in the Mr. Western America.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was in the tall class, and I didn't win. I think I got 3rd.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
I was beaten by Ed Giuliani and Bill Howard. Bill
Howard won your class, and Dan Howard got 2nd.
Yeah, that's right. Dan Howard. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about that was there was another guy in photos. You could see him standing. He had like curly hair, a blonde guy. And it turned out that me and that guy, get this, were the only competitors in that entire Mr. Western America that were clean, were natural.
Okay.
All the other guys were on steroids. And they talked about it. They didn't, guys were comparing, me and the other guy were the only 2 competitors. And that, believe it or not, that was when I made my decision.
Oh, really? This contest?
I said, I could beat both of these guys, both Howards. I could beat them both if I was on drugs. I said, and they beat me. I'm at it. Because I was in really good shape, if I say so myself. I had used that tanning stuff. I looked very dark. I said, I'm at it. not going to compete anymore unless I use drugs. That's when I made my decision. And I can tell you, because of Arnold's publicity, going on those TV shows, that show, it was held at the NBC Auditorium in downtown Los Angeles.
Okay.
It had lines for miles.
That's what I heard, yeah.
Miles. I remember arriving at the contest, and I said, what the hell is going on here?
Wow.
I had never seen that in any show in my life. It was because of Arnold's publicity. I mean, you could see the crowd. A lot of these people weren't even bodybuilders.
Yeah.
They went there because Arnold had publicized the show so well that he attracted people that just came out of curiosity.
Wow.
Miles down to LA, there were,
God.
Yeah. I just happened to compete that year. That was my.
What did you think of Arnold that year? Because he guest posed, right?
I don't even remember him.
Oh, really? Yeah.
I saw him at the camp, but I don't remember. I must have been backstage or doing something.
Yeah, probably. You're getting ready for the show, yeah.
I didn't watch Arnold. I didn't see any of the guest poses.
Because I saw the pictures of him and Franco, and Arnold looked great. He was really big,
Oh, he was. I saw him.
He was still in pretty good condition, but he was really big.
Yeah. No, I saw him walking around, but I didn't see him pose.
Okay.
He must have been doing something. Maybe I was backstage pumping. Who knows? I don't remember.
You remember Lou in that show?
I remember seeing Lou too, but I didn't see him pose either.
Okay.
I remember knowing that he won, but that's all I remember about it.
Yeah.
Wait, was Bob Birdsong in that show?
Let me see. Yeah, he got second to Bill Grant.
Yeah, because I remember him being there too.
Yeah, and Ken Keene was third.
Yeah.
And in the short class, Ed Corney won.
Yeah.
I remember Ed was kind of smooth in that one too.
Yeah, Ed had a tendency to get a little bit smooth,
Yeah.
Being really
He wasn't at his best in 74.
No.
And then what's weird is they did have the Mr. International in Tijuana also that year, but it was under the WBBG.
Yeah, he went over to
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
Hey, when Sergio challenged Arnold, correct me if I'm wrong, I vaguely remember, wasn't Dan Lurie in the audience? And he popped up and he right at stage with Sergio.
I think you're thinking of the.
Oh, it's another show.
That was the '68 Olympia.
Oh, okay. So I vaguely remember Dan Lurie coming up.
I think Sergio went to the microphone. He was saying he used Joe Weider's products, and then Dan Weider stood up and goes, "That's a lie." And then they both went up on stage and they were arguing with each other.
I remember now. Yeah, you're right.
So they had a professional division at that Mr. International that was in Tijuana, and Sergio was the only one in it.
Yeah.
Kind of sad.
Yeah.
He should have been competing in Mr. Olympia that year, and
should have. Yeah.
he quit the IFBB. That breaks my heart when I see that stuff because he was at his peak, and man, they should have been more shows between him and Arnold. Too bad the politics got in the way of that.
Political stuff. It's disgusting and messed up.
You look back at it now, it's like, oh man,
Yeah.
They were both such great bodybuilders, and they were both at their peak then,
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's a shame.
All right, well, I guess we'll wrap it up there, Jer. 74 was a huge year, so I think we covered it pretty good. Covered the AAU America, the NABA Universe, and then all the big IFBB shows.
Yeah.
So I guess when we'll get together again, we'll talk about 84.
84, okay, that's a good year.
Which was Lee Haney's first Mr. Olympia win, among other things.
Coming of Lee Haney, yeah.
Yeah.
That should be good.
Yeah. All right, Jared. Well, thanks again for joining me. I really love doing these year-end wrap-up shows with you, and I'm glad you can spend all this time talking about this stuff. And I love your stories.
Yeah.
I didn't even realize you were in that Mr. International. That was great. Western America, yeah, but you were there that night, so that's awesome.
That was actually my last bodybuilding contest too. That was the last one I
ever did. Yeah.
Again, because I'm not a sore loser, but I felt, and I'm not saying these guys weren't good, the two guys that beat me, but I really believe, I know both guys were on steroids. I know they were, for a fact. It's not my.
You were right up there with them.
I was up there, but the thing is, I was clean, and I felt there wasn't an even playing field.
Right.
And I said, I had to make the decision. I went home. I said, you know what? You got to be realistic. If you're going to continue to compete, you're going to have to get out. Remember, you have to understand the drug use, as we both know, was much different back then. It wasn't when they're taking a boatload of. It was fairly moderate, but I still felt bad because I got into this for health. I didn't want to start risking. I didn't know enough about steroids, so I had a decision. And I said, you know what? I like training. I like what it does for me, and I'm going to continue to do it. But I'm not competing, and it's been that way for over 50 years now. So
I think they probably started like getting more popular like around the mid 60s, right?
Yeah.
And then so this is the mid 70s, so this is like 10 years in. So I'm sure pretty much everybody was using them by now.
Yes, and the steroids got into bodybuilding stronger around. You're right, around the early 60s.
And probably in the 60s, guys were probably like some were, some weren't. But by the 70s, I'm sure pretty much everybody was doing them.
That's exactly true. Some guys were, and some, but by the 70s, everybody was on them.
And there was no natural shows back then. It was just contests, and you either did them or you didn't do them. Like you didn't do them, yeah.
You either, some of the guys made a different decision. They said, "All right, I'm not taking the drugs, but I'm going to go up against the drug users." And if they were really genetic freaks, they had a chance. They still had a chance. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But unless you had those genetic gifts, without the drugs, you really couldn't beat the guys on the drugs.
Yeah.
I did not have the genetic gifts. In other words, without the drugs, I really couldn't beat these guys.
Yeah.
So I don't regret it. I think it's the right decision. I'm still working out. A lot of the guys who use the drugs, for crying out loud, they burnt out years ago.
Yeah.
They're not training anymore.
Yeah.
So they're still doing it,
I see that today. I see guys who were around like pro bodybuilders in the 80s, and they're still training hard, but they just don't look that good because they got burnt out,
Got burnt out, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing happened to Annabelle Lopez. You remember he was always natural, and I think toward the end of his career, he was actually competing in some of those Grand Prix shows with the IFBB. And I remember Bill Pearl was a judge at one of them, and he goes, "I got to talk to you." And he told him, he goes, "You can't do this anymore." He goes, "You're never going to beat these guys." He goes, "Unless you do on the drugs." He goes, doing it naturally, he goes, you just have no chance.
Well, that's true. He was a good person too.
Yeah.
He did have good. He was a genetically gifted body, but he just didn't have the size to beat this guy.
Yeah.
He made a wise decision too.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah.
But today there's options like
lots of options. Yeah.
Like in your day, John, when you came around, by then they had the natural shows.
Yeah.
Now, if they had the natural shows when I competed, which they didn't, I probably would have competed for more years.
Yeah.
Because then I would have said to myself, okay, I'm competing against guys who are on even ground now.
Yeah.
May the best man win, like the cliche goes,
Right.
But I didn't have that option, so I had to drop out.
Well, I kind of had the same experience because I started competing in 1979, actually. December of 79 was my first show. And all those teenage shows I did were really big. There was like 30, 40, 50 teenagers in a show. And a lot of those guys weren't clean. And I was. And I remember my training partner told me the same thing that Bill Pearl told Annabelle Lopez. He's like, "You're not going to beat these guys." He goes, "It breaks my heart to see you compete because I know how hard you train. I know how much you put into this." But he goes, "You're not going to beat them." And I just said, "I'm not going to take drugs as a teenager. I'm not going to do that." But yeah, then you're right. Around the late 80s, early 90s, that's when the natural shows started coming around. But when I started, there were no natural shows. I don't even think they had the term natural bodybuilding. I never heard that term back then. You just did the show, and if you didn't want to take them, that was up to you. But there was no other options,
Right. Yeah. But the odd thing is, I mean, I'm not making a prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if in the future, and I hope this doesn't happen. If guys and women who compete start to get really messed up from the heavy drug use, the bodybuilding might slowly, gradually evolve more to more emphasis on natural contests.
Well, the MPC is supposed to be starting more natural shows, so
yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
I think they could see. I think they see that there's people that don't want to do the drugs, so that it's just another way for them to make some more money.
And then we have to again, face the fact that the freak look will never go out.
Right? No, it'll just be another division.
Have to be bigger and bigger and bigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to start a division myself. Best foot combination contest. Those with the best developed feet. I would place last, actually. My feet are.
All right, Jared. Well, again, thank you for joining me on the show. And when we get back, we will talk about the 1980s. And I hope you have a great holiday season, Jared. I know we're recording this before the holidays, so I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. And thanks again for spending all this time and joining us on the show.
Always great to talk to you, John. Take care.
All right, buddy.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.